Terra, Celes, and Locke are all getting upgrades this week in War of the Visions, but it's not just one upgrade, it's two, because they get the Master Ability 2. They also get their Transcendence upgrades. It's amazing. It's like your mom went to the supermarket and you were hoping that she would get Old Dutch all-dressed chips, but she comes back and you're unloading the bag and you see the chips, but all of a sudden, that's right, there's also the Nestle ice cream drumsticks in there too. Woo, can't wait. And if you can't relate to that because all-dressed chips don't exist in your country, then I'm just really sorry for your loss, because they're the best flavor of chip. But enough about that, because we've got to talk about these units, because while the Master Ability 2s are free, you do have to spend Transcendence materials in order to get the most out of these units. So we'll talk about whether or not that's going to be worth it. And for some of you, you might actually have to be pulling for these units because you didn't get them the first time. So I'll talk a little bit to experienced players. We'll talk a little bit towards new players that are wanting to get these units and whether or not it's going to be worth your time. Now, at the end of the day, these are classic Final Fantasy characters. So if you really like Terra, that's all that matters. Just go ahead, pull Terra, build Terra, have fun with Terra. Now, she's also going to be a great combo with Kefka. So there's a nice little pairing there for new players that we can already see, but we will go into more depth into all of them, and in particular with Terra. I've played with her quite a bit, so I do have a bit to share. All right, so first we're going to talk about Terra and her Master Ability 2, aka the Old Dutch all-dressed chips, is that she gets 10 more AoE resistance, she gets 20 human killer when attacking with magic attacks, and her meltdown gets upgraded, except hold on a second, Global already got the upgrade. We got 6 uses. JP went from 3 to 5, so they straight up didn't even give JP the global upgrade. Like, what the hell? Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense to me. So we're probably not getting a meltdown upgrade. Are we gonna get something instead? Maybe, but I don't know. Her intention with this upgrade was to get more uses. We already have those extra uses. I think we're just going to get the first 2 things, which are both really good. We get some damage and we get some survivability. Now, when you look at the drumsticks here, the Transcendence, that's going to be acquired AP up 30% and increase reaction block rate 40%. And then her Magic Tech barrier is going to be all damage reduction 50% instead of the physical damage reduction 50%, which it used to be. Now, these upgrades are kind of extra in a way, because yes, she does have AP issues in long battles, in, when she has to do 2 guild battles. So this will obviously help her. Reaction block rate is always a nice thing to have, but they're not must-haves. And for you to also see the barrier, yes, that's a huge upgrade, right? Like, don't get me wrong, but it's also, there's tons of barrier breaks out there. So a lot of the time it won't actually matter. So what does matter here is a few things. 1, how much do you like Terra? 2, do you want to upgrade her stats by reincarnating her? And then 3, if you're just looking to use her for fun, then her Master Ability 2 is actually where most of the punch, comes from. Because when I think about her on my own account, I used her a ton. She did fall off, and the reason she did is because she was slow. She's just a slower unit than a lot of other units. She has limited movement, she has limited range, and I think the AoE resistance is going to help her a bit for survival, but she's still going to be lacking a lot of the pieces that would compete with a top tier unit. For example, when we look at her kit, there's really very little utility there. Her main claim to fame was her damage and her 100% hit, and those things are still there for sure, but there's no re-raise removal, no courage removal, there's no barrier break, there's no status effects aside from disable that she doesn't even use that often, and it's just missing these things like, I guess, the counter chance reduction, the healing power down, these things that you see on other kits. She does have a dispel on her sub job. If you really wanted to try to build her up to use that, you have to crit for it to actually take effect, and the damage modifier on it isn't that high, so I've tried that as well. At the end of the day, she is a capable unit, but she's just missing a lot of the things that units have these days to make them compete. All these CT ups that units are getting, the self-healing, but at the end of the day, we're really not seeing any major overhauls to her kit that are going to make her suddenly be an effective unit in the meta right now. So if you're a fan favorite of hers, build her up. I'll be transcending mine for sure. I'm not going to reincarnate her, and I will, try try to use her when I can, but I don't think she's going to be making the cut for guild battle. As for new players, I would not recommend pulling for her unless you really like her, or maybe if you are going down the fire path, which is, you know, a kind of a risky path to go on it. Although fire's gotten a lot of love lately, it's traditionally been an element that hasn't been that well supported, and a lot of that stuff that fire got has now gone and passed, so you'll have to wait for it to come around again. So if you are a new player, you want to build a fire duo with Kefka and Terra, you could go that way, but I think that for most new players, the thing to be doing right now would be to save. Next up, we have Celes, and she got a very good upgrade. All of her upgrades are specifically towards her tanking capabilities, which is really good to see. So the Master Ability 2 has given her 25% HP. Now that's up from 15%. She has 20% slash resist. She has 20% missile resist. And if you transcend her, she will get single target resistance 10. She gets 25 from a buff on her kit as well. So that's pretty high. And then more healing power. She gets an upgrade to her Undefeated General's Pride. And what this is going to actually do for you is give you a 30% damage absorb on your attacks. So all of a sudden, when she's dishing out damage, she'll be healing back a little bit. So this is a lot of different defensive upgrades for her, and I'm here for it. I think it's really, really strong upgrades. I think that a lot of people are going to be wanting to either pull for Celes or to just definitely be upgrading their Celes. There's a ton of added tankiness here, and I think she's going to be really solid in a lot of different content. When you look at water as an element, you don't really have other tanking options anyway, so that makes this a really appetizing pull for anybody that is really feeling strongly about the water element. It's also something to consider with all of the fire that came out recently, that water is going to be an effective way to deal with these fire units. So there's another reason to pull for her there. If you're a new player, you're getting a magic tank that can basically carry you in a lot of different PvE that you might have to catch up on in this game. So I think that she is a good upgrade for everybody. I think she's a pretty safe pull for a lot of different players. Just keep in mind what is coming up on the horizon and what might be a surprise, you know, thing coming out whenever this collab was supposed to come out 4 weeks from now. But otherwise, I think Celes is still very good value, and I would recommend her. The final unit to look at is Locke, and his all dressed chips were the slash attack 15 and the reaction block rate 30. So this Master Ability 2 is pretty minor. These are fine things. As we said before, extra damage is always good, but where he really gets a massive upgrade is in his Transcendence. So he gets slash evade 15 and magical evade 15, and his re-raise now has 2 uses instead of 1. So what more could you ask for a free unit than to directly add to what their role is, which is an evasion unit, to get more types of evasion and against 2 very popular attack types. So this is a much needed boost to his evasion. I think that this will maybe see some more play with Elena and Jaden's and that kind of thing that you see in some limited contexts. He's still going to suffer a little bit from being left behind by the meta. For example, just how many more units have re-raise removal now, how many more accurate units there are right now. There's a lot of reasons why he's tougher to use, but he is a free unit. You can slow build him if you want to, and we also get a lot of free light units, and the next one that we're going to be getting is Bart's. So if you are a free-to-play player, it is smart to take advantage of the free units that you were given, especially when their synergy is coming through here, and you'll be able to add a free 100 cost Bart's to your light team eventually. So he is a safe build for a lot of people, even if he's not going to be as impactful as when he launched. If you're a brand new player, then I would definitely say to build him, because he is, again, you save that cost of having to pull him on banner, and you get a unit that has a lot of mobility that will help you out in PvE as well as PvP. He's a little bit harder to get up and running for a new player because evasion is harder to build, but I still don't think that's enough to dissuade people from building him. But now if you're an experienced player and you know where your account is strong and where it's weak, you probably might not need to build them depending on what you have. So for example, for me, I'm not going to transcend him. I don't need to do that. I always have that option later on, but it's just something to consider if you ever do go down that light path, that he is a very solid addition and he is free. Just to be thorough, let's talk about the weapons and the +6 versions. I think they're all pretty good though, so you can feel pretty safe about building these because they are limited and they're all solid. So Locke Stagger gives you defense penetration 20, but also human killer 15 until you have been hit twice. So obviously built for evade units, but even without that, you get a power boost even after your first hit. So many dagger units will use this. I think this is pretty safe to build. You're generally going to be building the assault version, but you may build the crit version if you want that extra crit. I think most people will just build the assault. As for Terra's sword, this one is really interesting because it's a sword that gives spirit penetration. We have a lot of attack oriented swords, but this one is magic oriented. So there's definitely units that might like this. And what it does is it actually addresses one of her big concerns, which is her agility. So increase your agility 10% for self when HP is 60%, higher than 60%. So definitely really good. For this sword, you definitely just build the magic version. It's not even a question. And then we have Celes' sword, and this one had the 15% for 3 turns. Now it's the 15% for 4 turns. Just a really solid sword for her if you end up using one, although we have a lot of different ways to boost our HP now that you might just end up using 2 pieces of equipment, using an armor and 2 accessories instead of a weapon altogether. But it's still fine to go ahead and build one of these just so you have access to it. And again, you would just build the magic version. So with that, we've talked about the reruns for the Final Fantasy VI collab. Hopefully you are able to get the one that you like if that's what you want to do, or maybe you're just going to be saving. So in that case, happy savings to you. I am definitely going to be upgrading my Terra and transcending her. I will not reincarnate her, but I will enjoy her, and hopefully I'll feature her in some videos at some point as well. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in a future video.